Hello, everyone. Welcome to Impact Over Image. Today's episode, I'm super excited. I am very, very excited to have this Renaissance man. That's what I call him. And he sure is. This is Stefani Akoki. He's such a great friend of mine, and we've interacted over the years. We've known each other for more than 7 years, cumulatively speaking. And the funny part is like I'm losing hair, he's gaining hair, so I don't know what's going on with him, with me. I need to get the secret recipe. What he uses for his hair. Stefan, you need to share the secret, man.
Take a lot of naps.
A lot of naps, a lot of
Relax.
naps.
Life is good. Relax. Life is
Yeah, perfect. Well, just a little bit of a background about Stefan, for all my viewers. This man, it may sound like I'm joking, but for me, he's one of the people that I really look up to. He's been very, very instrumental in the community. Not only that, even for me as well, he's been one of the people that if I feel like I'm kind of hung up on something, I reach out to Steph. I'm like, Stefan, this is what's going on. How can I navigate this? So I am going to give a little bit of a background about Stefan for the viewers so that you can kind of get to know him a little bit better. So Stefan is in technology as well. He's a social entrepreneur. He's very passionate about building high impact solutions. And by that, I mean the impact solutions will be spoken about, as we proceed on. He was born in Côte d'Ivoire. He spent 2 years in Ghana for a religious service. But here's the interesting piece, and I would really get into it a little bit more. He also lived in China, and now he lives in the United States. But the beauty about it is like Stefan also is an entrepreneur. He works for Lucid, which is a great company that builds great solutions as well. But the thing that I enjoy the most about Stefan, in my own view, he has some sort of like a B Corp company, and we'll discuss it. We'll dive deeper a little bit about that. Like he has a company that really helps a lot of people find employment in places where sometimes gaps are there, but he bridges that gap by employing a lot of people and giving them the way out so that they can sustain their lives. And with that said, now, Stefan, that was my intro, you know. But in your own words, Stefan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Stefan?
Thank you, Joseph. Thanks so much for having me here. That was a wonderful intro. I don't know if I can add much to it, but in summary, like you said, from Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire for our French speaker. Been living in the US for about 9 years. I've been abroad for about 10. Had a bit of a journey around the world, and now here enjoying technology and many other things that I'm passionate about: entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship. So lots and lots of good topic we could talk about, and I'm really excited to be here, Joseph.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Now, Stefan, what really prompted you to go to China? How tell us a little bit about that shift.
Yeah.
And when you were in China, what took you there to begin with?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I like to say it's one of my life's biggest accident, but that turned out great. That turned out great. So when I let's say my religious service, my country was going through some civil unrest, and we had a bit of a civil war that was very unfortunate. It's not in the past, and then Côte d'Ivoire is very much stable now. But as a side effect of the war, my university was severely damaged. So I had no chance to be able to go back to college. And not being able to afford private university, we had to figure out a way for me to go somewhere, and that would give me an opportunity to go to school. So, one of my friend then suggested China, and my first reaction, well, no one goes there for school. Why should I go to China? But after much investigation and looking at other options, China seemed like a good option in terms of getting a visa. For a lot of us, if you're from Africa, you're familiar with the struggle to be able to go abroad. So lots of opportunities that I've tried but were turned down, and China happened to be one of the countries that was offering visas to African students. So I took on the opportunity to go and study computer science there. The reality of it was very different, and not sure if you want me to go into what happened over there, but that was the initial plan was go to China, learn computer science, and either stay there to work or come back and try to contribute to my country. That was kind of the plan.
Fantastic. So what are some of the things that you picked up? Was I know you speak Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
And how was that like for you? Someone coming from a French-speaking country, learning Chinese, and now in the United States also speaking English as well. So you are a trilinguist. You know, you can speak 3 different languages fluently.
Uh-huh.
And tell me a little bit about the Chinese experience, because I assume that the method of learning was not in English there. Was that a learning curve for you? Was it easy for you to navigate the environment that you are not used to?
No, that's a great question. And before I get into that, let me tell you a little funny story about languages. So when I was about 12 or 13, out of middle school, the school called my dad, and they said, "Well, we're very confused by your son. He's very good at everything, most subjects he does, but for some reason he wouldn't go to English classes." So I failed almost all my English classes in middle school and high school. And so my dad came to me and he's like, what's with you in English? Why don't you just go to class? And I said, well, look, Dad, I'm never planning to leave the country. I'm never planning to make a friend that speaks English. And if they want to talk to me, they should learn French. So because that's not my plan, there's no point of me learning English. So I was so confident in my future that I thought, why should I learn English? Well, life taught me otherwise. So that's perhaps a lesson I was going to share, which is never passing on an opportunity to learn. I did pass on English, and then went for my religious service in Ghana. And obviously, English is a spoken language there. So I learned firsthand that, I was like, oops, on my first day, like I cannot understand anybody that speaks to me. I can't talk, and I was very frustrated. And I was like, oh man, I wish I took the chance to learn properly when I was in school. So when I went to China, I was like, well, I had the same dilemma. Well, now I had to learn a new language. And will I take on that opportunity? But then it didn't make sense, because in reality, I was going to learn to do computer science, but in an English program. So it turned out the whole program was a scam. So the English program didn't exist. So I had to be able to stay in China. I had to study Mandarin. So it was never really a plan of mine to go study Mandarin. But when I was confronted with that opportunity, I remember what happened with English. I was like, well, I don't think I will, need Mandarin in my life. But I said the same thing about English. So maybe I should take that seriously, and which I did, and he opened a lot of doors, and I'll talk about it a bit later. But in terms of the learning curve, back to your original question, it was very difficult, very, very difficult. I mean, I landed in Guangzhou, southern China, and first time I heard that language, and my first thought was, there's no way I'll be able to speak this. It is so complex. Those sounds sound so difficult and all that kind of thing. But so it was hard. And one of the first lesson I learned about as in that process of learning the language was the importance of humility. I would say humility as a child. So that's my first lesson of learning a language. You have to be as humble as a child, because you become in a way a child. You cannot communicate your emotions. You can't understand what others are saying, but you're frustrated, but you can't say it in the language that they understand. And that was my time in China. And once I told myself, okay, I will act like a child, and I did it in many ways. I started watching little cartoons, looked at like children books and all that kind of thing, and started from there. And from that point, there was a turning point. Once I accepted that I knew nothing, because I thought, I learned Spanish in school, with English and French. I thought, well, what can Mandarin be? How hard can it be? I already have 3 languages that I've learned. But I realized it was hard for me, because I was not going about it the way of humility. But once I told myself I know nothing, then suddenly it started to click, and I could learn and I could grow.
That is so fantastic. I really love that story, Stefan. But you bring up a very good point here, mentioning that you really need to know your gaps in life, right? And because I feel like if you do not know what your gaps are, you may be actually just going through life aimlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you may also not know what you need to improve on.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such a great attribute to have, to say, I need to humble myself. And then in humility, that's when you can see where you are lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you are humble enough as well, there are so many good things that come our way, because people seek out to help those people that do not appear like they know everything, so to speak. And you went to the fundamentals, you went to the basics to say, I'm going to be like a little child, and then begin from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that's how you're able to build up the proficiency, to be able to speak Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that said, you know, Stefan, how has been your journey be? Like, how did you use some of the hard times in your lives, like in your life, in order for you to, to succeed, in other words, or to overcome some of the obstacles that were presented your way?
No, that's a great question. I would say one of the first principle that I keep in mind is deepening your why. Um, why are you doing this? And I use that a lot in product management, and it drives my customers crazy sometimes. They always tell me about the what. I want this feature, I want this process, I want this system. And I said, that's great, but why? And and it's until they, and you have to keep asking that question over and over again. I like the word of, I hope I'm correct, Henry Ford, that said, if I were to ask people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. But the deeper reason was they needed to move, they needed to travel, and hence the vehicle or the car that was enhancing that. But it doesn't come as obvious, because the what is easy to communicate, the why is not as easy. And why do I say that? I'm talking about knowing the why. In those moments, of challenges, when your why is not deep, when you're not sure why you're doing this thing, it's easy to quit. Very easy to quit. And for me, I haven't stopped. I haven't quit it, because I knew exactly why I was doing this thing. And in several examples, for example, my first time, coming from a religious service, I get home, and after 2 years, university is gone. 2 years, it's closed. It's for renovation or for rep repairs. I was like, oh man, like I could have said, well, bye bye school. Why should I go to college? The second time, try to get enrolled in a private college, and we missed the deadline because we didn't have money to pay for the tuition. Then I failed again. I was like, oh. The third time I get enrolled in the college, finally that was, cheap enough, and they have no computers. So I'm in a technical college trying to learn programming and no computers. I was like, oh man, again. Fourth time I go to China trying to study computer science. Like, this is it. This is my time. This is it. And then I get there, the program doesn't exist. It's a scam. I'm like, oh boy. But why? Like, that was like, at that point I was like, I have all the reasons in the world to quit. But why didn't I? Because I thought about my whys, and for me it's two things. One, my family. And helping my family, getting my family in a better place was, for me, it was everything for me. And whenever I try to quit, or I think about quitting, I remember my mother. I remember the sacrifices she made, and I remember my family. I said, well, for them, I have to keep moving. Being in a country where I didn't speak the language, I was homeless at some point, but I thought to myself, I can't quit, because I'll remember those people that I left behind. So my family first, and then my community. Those are the two things that kept me going. So before you embark in the journey of, you're already in the journey of life, but in the journey of doing something, whether it's investing, your career, your, a relationship, or all those kind of things, ask yourself why. Folks will come to me and say, I want to invest. Like you, I want to do real estate. I want to buy houses and sell houses. Then I was like, that's great. You told me the what, but I want to understand the why. And I make it a point to people that I mentor. I will not mentor you until I understand the why, because if I don't understand the why, it would be hard for me to guide you. And even if I did, I promise you that you probably quit when it starts getting hard, because it is hard. Um, I hope that answers your questions.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much, Stefan. Then, with that said, you can have some people who struggle finding their whys.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the pointers that you have that maybe they could use in order for them to find those whys? Because that's such a beautiful statement that you made to say when you know your why, it's easier to endure the hardships because you know your why. It becomes like fuel that you use in order for you to continue on the path.
Mm-hmm.
But now, let's say we go to the other side of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, they don't know their why.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the tools that you feel like maybe they could use in order for them to refine their why and identify this is my why?
Mm-hmm.
Because I assume, Stefan, you do mention the why, but I assume even at a very young age, you probably at some point you didn't know your why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What helped you to get to know your why?
No, that's a great question. And I would say it's a mix of life experience. As you grow and as you mature, you start looking for things that matters the most to you. As a child, if you were to ask me my why, I said, well, it's the evening cartoons. Like, yeah,
Correct.
I will die to go watch that cartoon, and I will do whatever it takes. Even if it's skipping English classes, right?
Right.
To go watch those cartoons. So I would say,
Yes.
you want to give yourself the patience to mature and grow. So I wouldn't say it's an automatic formula to be able to get
Mhm.
there. As you grow, as you mature, then it's easier to identify that. But what I would do when people come to me, like I said in the investing example, I was just
Correct.
looking at it. And so you want to, like, say people say I want to retire early. Okay, that's a good goal, but again, why? So, well, I like to spend time with my family. I like to travel and all. Then, and I'll ask a question like, how does that make you feel? and,
Mhm.
and so and that emotion, and is that love, is that excitement? And I think identifying the emotions that you feel when you do certain things can help me, or at least me as a mentor, or can help someone identify the things that they care the most about. And also even watching them as they talk, and it's also a good exercise, I would say, even to do with someone else, because you may not be as aware of how your face lit up, when you talk about the subject. And
Right. Right.
for me, I'm not a I program, for example. I know how to program, but if you talk about programming, you won't see my face lit up, because I'm like,
Right. Right.
it's okay. But you talk about social entrepreneurship, like helping people, building life. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Let's help people. That makes me feel so good. And I think that's I would say a guide you could use. Like, okay, you want money, okay, for what? I like shopping. Okay, when you shop, how does that make you feel? Okay, it makes me feel okay. It makes me feel good, but why? Or I like it when people think I look good. I'll say, okay, is that really your why, or is there
Like what you mentioned, having that why being sharpened, life experiences, and many different avenues. And I also like it's fascinating the way you said that how we can find our whys by some of the things we are passionate about. For other people, if it's shopping, that's the one that lights them up, for them to be excited. And now you did mention about something that we talked about,
Mhm,
Stefan. One thing that why you are on impact over image, the reason why you've been elected, to be able to come on this show
mhm,
is actually what we are going to go to and discuss next. You actually briefly mentioned it. You
mhm.
are always excited about helping other people.
Yes.
And with that said as well, you've actually created a company, that really does that for people. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? And then we'll go over also as well on other investments, that you've already done as well.
Mhm.
But the passion, I see it, and I want us to be able to discuss a little bit about that. What prompted you to be able to create the company that you have, which is actually, making a lot of news, and we're very excited about, like I see that it's actually being a solution to so many gaps, for people who actually need your services,
Mhm.
and also the people who are providing the services. I see like it's a symbiotic type of relationship. You know, your company provides solutions, but also you are able to bridge the gap of unemployment.
Mhm. Yeah, no, thanks. That's a great question. And yes, like you mentioned, I love doing anything that helps others, that impact others, that transforms their life. So my company is Elevate Côte d'Ivoire, and our aim is to give opportunities to underprivileged Africans or Ivorians, for that case, that where we're starting in Côte d'Ivoire, the opportunity to pursue self-reliance and achieve prosperity in life in Côte d'Ivoire. We have about 40% of people that live in poverty, and we have an unemployment rate of nearing 50%. Lots and lots of young people that are hungry, that are passionate, and that want to work but don't have the opportunity because the country or the system doesn't create enough jobs for them to be able to do so. Um, so as our journey, from Ivory Coast to China to the United States, that's a problematic that was very important to me, because I was one of those people. I was there after, post-war, no jobs, nothing to do, and no opportunities, and trying, like I said, the hustle, selling on the streets, and doing like, and was an English tutor for a while. Thankful for the opportunity to learn English and all that, those kind of things. And when I left, my heart was still in Cote d'Ivoire, thinking, well, I was able to leave, but millions of people just like me will not have that opportunity. So how can I give back? And how can I give them the opportunities that I have while I'm here? And then I came to creating employment, creating jobs. And why jobs? Because jobs are powerful. I know there's a lot of talks about escaping a 9 to 5 and all, but jobs are powerful in a way that it creates stability. And with stable income, it automatically help people move to the middle class. And when I think about middle class, I think about the people that have created enough stability in their life by taking care of their basic needs, so they can aspire for more. And that's my real fight and my real desire for jobs. Because when people are trapped in poverty, they can't afford food, or they don't have a stable place to live, so no food, no shelter. They constantly worry by those basics, and when you're constantly worried about that, you cannot fulfill your full potential. And then, I mean, just so you're familiar
Right,
with that, we've been there.
right,
It's hard to dream
right.
bigger when you're thinking constantly, okay, what am I going to eat next? What am I going to eat next? And with jobs, we essentially solve that problem. Now you have food, now you have shelter, now you have health insurance, and now you can think bigger. You can think about your dreams. I bet perhaps the next Albert Einstein is somewhere in Africa, perhaps in Zambia. But if that person is born
100%.
in places where there's no opportunity for education, there's no opportunity for job, they may never realize that potential. And that's what we try to do with Elevate Cote d'Ivoire. We train those youth, we train those people locally, well, virtually, I can say, and then we match them with companies here that have the needs for their skills. And so it's a win-win, like you mentioned. The companies here are able to save on costs, on labor costs, as they can hire folks in Cote d'Ivoire that can charge a bit less, but can offer the same quality of work. And the way we win by creating jobs, so by reducing the unemployment rate locally, but we also win by giving those youth the exposure they never would have had unless they travel or left the country. So that can push them to new height, and give them trainings that they wouldn't have had locally, and all that kind of thing. So we aim to hire about 1,000 people virtually in the next couple of years. It's a big goal, but we're super excited about it, and that will be the phase one of our mission. And then phase two will be more local investments over there to develop the economy and develop certain industries like agriculture and technology and all that kind of
Gotcha. Perfect. Hey, Stefan, I'm gonna pause right here and let me turn on the lights. It's getting darker here.
thing.
No, I mean, I love how, even just from your words, Stefan, you're so passionate about, bridging the gap, for those people, and also matching them with the right, people that they can work with. But with that said, Stefan, I just also had another question as well, because you've been successful in business,
Mhm.
you've been successful in, in your career, you've been successful also navigating, the academics that you're able to, to kind of just pursue and to push through until you're able to get to a position where you are. But for me, I'm a strong believer that nothing happens in a vacuum.
Mhm.
I also wanted to find out, just for our viewers out there, and even for me to get to know a little bit more, what are some of the things that you used in order to anchor yourself or motivate you to be in a position so that you started looking at these things differently? Was it the certain types of books that you read, or was it the access to mentors that really assisted you to show you how things are done? I would like to know a little bit about that, because the best thing and the first thing that I would like to say is that the mindset has to change before the body,
Mhm.
because when the mind is changed, the body follows.
Mhm.
So, can you share with us some of the things that you really use to be able to help you get to where you are today?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I, in terms of principle, I'll start with principle. There's still, I'll again repeat the same concept of the why. The why has driven me throughout, and then it's uh, it's what got me here. In terms of when it's hard, I keep going back to that. And I like to say that I was just thinking about the whole self-made concept recently, and I like to say if, perhaps it's been used before, but I am a community-made man, community-made instead of self-made.
Mm,
I'm the fruit of the help and of many, starting from my mother, as she's the one that I would say anchored me in the service of others and thinking about others and building living a life of purpose. And the aunties, like we call them back home in Africa, all the aunties around you, they're like mothers to you. And all the people that have guided me through my journey, going to many foreign places in Ghana, learning meeting new people in China. I Throughout my journey, I thought people that were always there to help. And I like the concept of mentors, but I see I like to use them more in an informal way. As
mm,
in, like, Joseph, you are my mentor. Every time I go
mm,
to your house and we talk about all topics, race, and development of business, real estate, like I learned so much from you, so much from you. And I may not call you formally a mentor. I mean, I would like to think you are my mentor, but I think every time I leave your house, I come uplifted, with more knowledge, more power, your recommendation for books, and also to me, it's like, in a way, you're a macro mentor, and I take and the knowledge I get from you, the knowledge I get from the people that I surround myself with, um, is what is built has helped me build myself, and help me face all the challenges ahead or think differently. So I may not I mean I have I work, I have mentors and all that kind of thing, but I think I am more of a person that I like, can I learn from everybody? You know,
mm.
I like
Love
to
that.
ask questions. Someone comes to me and they say, "Hey, I'm a volcano scientist." Ooh, okay, that sounds interesting. I mean, I see
Mm,
volcanoes on TV, but I don't know the science behind how they erupt. Can you tell me more? So
right.
with that 5 minutes conversation, he's become a mentor to me in an area that I know cool about. That people may say, "Well, why do you care?" I was like, well, it's nature. It's beautiful. Knowledge is beautiful. But I've been mentored within the 5 minutes, or
Love it.
language, all those things. I think anyone that I practice a language with that I'm not good at has become a mentor to me. Maybe, I mean, I'll see them again. Perhaps it's just like a conversation at the airport. But that's
Mm.
like how I like to see mentorship, in a way of we all the people around you can and have something to teach you, and then you have to take that advantage and leverage their knowledge to help you be better, or learn, or be more knowledgeable.
That is fantastic way of putting on how you view mentors. I really love that, because we definitely soak up a lot from many different sources, and those people, they could be called mentors, as you mentioned, and I love that. Now, there is also another thought, to bring up another point is that we mentioned about the things that you've achieved. You have really done things. But one thing is like I remember if it was Usain Bolt who said it, I can't recall exactly. He said, I practiced for years
Mhm.
to run a few seconds. Because for the most part, people see their highlights, even maybe when you get on social media, people will just see the best display of what they are able to see to say, wow, Stefan is a successful entrepreneur. Stefan has properties, or Stefan has this and that. But can you tell us that what are some of the things that you've had to sacrifice in order for you to be where you are?
Mhm.
In other words, simply said, to be able to showcase some of the things that you've achieved.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. I want to come back. I want to go back actually to the Usain Bolt quote. I really, really, really like that because those are very common comments that I hear, and now I'm gonna start referring that quote to explain that success is not achieved overnight. Um,
Right.
and I like my mom and like my mom and I like to say we've come a long way. We've come a long way.
Hmm.
So I may have
Love
been
that.
here let's say been here 9 years, so 4 years of education and then 5 years of work and entrepreneurship and all. But being able to build a successful real estate business, successful career, despite the limitation of visas and all that kind of thing. But it's back to the same question I get all the time. Oh, like entrepreneurship so seems so easy for you, but then I was like, well, you got to look at all the failures.
Mm,
Selling ties, selling shoe polish, selling
mm,
blenders on the street, like all these years of the grinding and working really hard. I've sharpened my mind and I've given me the experiences that I've leveraged here. I felt what I was lacking was opportunities. So when I landed here, I was like, oh my goodness. I remember calling my mom at the airport in DC saying, Mom, we're never going to be poor. I made her that promise that day. Uh,
love that.
because I was like, my mind has already imagined all the things I can do. I would just needed a chance. And then that chance was given to me when I landed here. And I'm going to take advantage of every single opportunity. So China was perhaps the height of my training, survival training, get to a new country, can't speak the language, you don't know anybody, and then just figure it out. So, and then, same with post-war Ivory Coast, you come to a place, there's no resources, no opportunities, no jobs, and you gotta figure out. So you have this combination, and I felt like just like Usain Bolt, like those were years of training and preparation. So when I landed here, coming from a place like, I was telling my old school where there are no computers. And then I come to a college here and I'm studying information systems and computers are available everywhere and I have free Wi-Fi. I'm like, how can I fail? I have
Fantastic.
survived a life of no computers and then I have all the opportunities. So it was like, yep, now I can go 100 miles an hour because I have all the opportunities now. But and in terms of what had to be sacrificed, obviously, is the time. Time is our most precious resources. Yes, I could have had more time to party when I was at BYU. I could have more time to do a lot of entertaining stuff, but I had a goal, I had a why, so I had to focus on those things. um, and I was even related to time, the biggest sacrifice is time away from family. Being gone, like I said, 10 years, and then went home,
Mm,
thankfully, this past April. And it was a amazing moment. I say bittersweet, and so like it was sweet because I was so happy. I saw everyone,
mm,
but bitter because I realized, wow, I was gone
right.
years. The weddings I've missed, the birth I've missed, and all the things I've missed. But by looking back, I was like, well, I left for a greater goal, and I was able to accomplish it, and I am proud of myself, and I'm grateful that I'll be able to do that. But sometimes I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, it was a big sacrifice, but it also, it's a principle of life. To achieve great things, you have to be willing to sacrifice greatly as well. Nothing come easy, and there's no shortcut. So I'm grateful for my blessings, but yes, it had to come with a price. There's always a price to a reward, I'll say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, Last thing, Stefan, you enjoy reading as well. What are some of the books that you can share with our viewers out there, our listeners out there, that you have used, to be able to anchor you and to be able to help you, kind of see things in a way that makes more sense and also adds more motivation in order for you to get to the finish line?
Oh, that's a good question. Oof, I wish I had a good list prepared. But what I can think of right away is, so for business, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's a typical book there for investors.
Correct.
I started my journey in real estate. I've been, let's say, the 4 hour work week. It's a really good one that I enjoy very much in terms of efficiency of time management, and creating a business, start scaling a business, and all that kind of thing. I've been very much into, for those who are interested in economic development,
Yes.
Poor Economics is a book that I highly recommend. If you're curious about solving the problem of poverty or development across the world, I think Poor Economics is a great one. I probably have more in my list there, but those are the things I can think of, and I'm happy to share
I
some
love it.
with you later.
Love it. You actually shared Poor Economics, and I read it up. I kind of like binged it, so to speak, because I couldn't put it down. It was so good, and it actually opened me up to actually even look at other economics books, that really help to see, how we can bridge the gap, so to speak. That's how I was able to learn about Jeffrey Sachs as well.
Mm-hmm.
I actually picked up his book because you introduced me to poor economics, and then I actually then moved on to Jeffrey Sachs, and I am learning a lot.
Yeah.
My friend, it's been a complete pleasure to have you on this show. I am so excited, and I'm so very blessed and honored to have you on. It's been fantastic, and thank you so much, and for the impact that you are actually exemplifying. To say, if I'm from the ground, I need to reach the ground and also lift in anyone that I can. And
Mm-hmm.
you're doing so, my friend. I commend you, I salute you, and I'm very proud of you. And thank you again for your time, in order for you to join us on Impact Over Image. And please don't stop impacting. Continue on the same path that you're doing and, helping as many people as you can. Thank you for your time, Stefan.
Thank you. It was my honor, and I hope to be back.
Yes, we are hoping to have you back because this was very, very informative. And thank you.
Thank you.